Bill Gates. Bill Gates and his wife, Melania Gates, I believe. Bill Gates' wife. That's crazy. Melinda French Gates. So, as y'all obviously know, Epstein files have been released, and Bill Gates has been mentioned quite a few times in those files. And because of that, I believe that is the reason why Melinda Gates has found it. Because of that, that is the reason why she felt like, I guess, she needed to make this statement.
Acknowledge the elephant in the room at this moment.
I haven't watched this yet, so I'm gonna react to this with you.
Husband, Bill, is named in the newest tranche of Epstein.
Damn, she tried to tiptoe around
I have to
it.
acknowledge the elephant in the room at this moment. Your ex-husband, Bill, is named in the newest tranche of Epstein files. And there are a new alleged details about his past behavior. And I want to give you the opportunity to respond in whatever way you want to.
Well, let me say this. I think we're having a reckoning as a society, right? No girl should ever be put in the situation that they were put in by Epstein and whatever was going on with all of the various people around him. No girl. I mean, it's beyond heartbreaking, right? I remember being those ages, those girls were. I remember my daughters being those ages, right? So for me, it's personally hard whenever those details come up, right? Because brings back memories of some very, very painful times in my marriage, but I have moved on from that. I purposely pushed it away and I moved on. I'm in a really unexpected, beautiful place in my life. So whatever questions remain there of what I can't even begin to know all of it, those questions are...
She knows something. Look at her facial expression. Look at her body language. She definitely knows something, gang.
For those people, and
she's just so repulsed by it.
Even my ex-husband, they need to answer to those things, not me.
Well,
and I am so happy to be away from all the muck.
Yo, they got divorced. I didn't even know they broke up. When the fuck did Bill Gates and... Oh, word. Bill and Melinda Gates divorced due to the combination of factors, primarily Melinda's loss of trust stemming from Bill's admitted infidelity and his continued problematic association with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Despite her strong objection, which she described as many things beyond just Epstein, but linked to a lack of honesty and trust in the marriage. Damn. When did they get divorced? When did Bill Gates get divorced? I knew they were married, but I didn't know they fucking got divorced. They got divorced in May 2021 after 27 years of marriage. Their continued role as Gates Foundation for a period before Melinda resigned in 2024. That is crazy.
Yeah.
That it was there.
I have to put more words to the muck for context for our listeners. The emails in the files suggest that Bill Gates had additional affairs and that he tried to get medication to treat a sexually transmitted infection.
Oh, yeah. They said I'm not even calling my son. That's not my son. I ain't jacking him, bro. Actually, that's my son. We jacking Bill Gates. Fuck it. We jack. Nah, I ain't gonna lie. I don't know that motherfucker. He probably gonna... By the time I even get up there. Anyways, yeah, so Bill Gates apparently had an STD. And I guess he was trying to get treated for it or whatever. I don't know too much information.
You the medicine
I'm doing research as I'm watching this shit.
His representative has said get medication to treat a sexually transmitted infection, and that he was going to give you the medicine without you knowing. His representative has said all of this is false. it is not on you to have to respond to the details of that alleged behavior, but I wonder what your dominant emotion is when you read these news articles with these details.
Sad. Just unbelievable sadness. Unbelievable sadness, right?
Yo, she doesn't even look like a human being, bro. Stop. That was the wrong. I'm frying her, gang. This is a person?
And again, I'm able to take my own sadness and look at those young girls and say, my God, how did that happen to those girls, right? And so for me, it's just sadness for, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave I felt I needed to eventually leave the foundation. So it's just sad. That's the truth, right? And it's kind of like, at least for me, I've been able to move on in life.
All right. Basically, Melinda said a whole bunch of nothing other than the fact that she's trying to empathize with the victims. All the victims, all the victims of Epstein and everyone who was involved in the case. She's basically saying she got nothing to do with it. That's his problem. I am currently divorced. That is not my man. Do not pin anything or any information that is coming out from here on out on me. I had nothing to do with this. Leave me alone. That's basically what Melinda French Gates is saying. And I don't know why she still has his last name if they're divorced. This makes no sense.
Mr. Gates.
But following that, Bill Gates decided to break his silence. See what Mr. Gates has to say.
Welcome to Australia. Thanks for sitting down with us. I'd like to start with your legacy. A lot of people will start a foundation or a charity with the idea of creating it.
Nah, gang. Get me to the nitty gritty. I don't need to see. I don't want to know about his philosophy, bro. Bill Gates on the golden rule, preventing the pandemic. We'll go back to everything after. On the record, addressing Jeffrey Epstein. Let's go a little bit.
Show the U.S. was by far, but at least
Damn, this motherfucker old,
right now they've pulled out of that. And so, yes, the basic safety net. Governments are going to be there on an ongoing basis. Now, there are some things where you can pilot a new approach where a philanthropist can take a risk to find a scientist or, get it out. And that philanthropy is sometimes more agile. So it plays a complementary role to government funding.
Part of that issue of trust brings me to Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know what your relationship with him was.
Yeah, I met Jeffrey in...
My son is cheek to cheek. The minute he got asked, what is your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein? My son said, look at him.
I want to know what your relationship...
Yo, what's the word? Iron triangle? I feel like you spelled triangle wrong, but can you say happy birthday to my homeboy, Nick Hurst? Yo, Nick Hurst! Yo, Nick Hurst, happy birthday, broski. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Eyes red, can't see straight.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Yo, these are such offbeat snaps, bro. Happy birthday. Yo, how old are you? It don't matter, gang. Another year strong. You feel me? Keep going. This shit ain't over. Never think this shit over. You ain't old. You just getting younger. You feel me? And yeah. Happy birthday. Y'all go wish him a happy birthday. Word of bro. All right, let's get back. All right, Bill Gates. What the fuck you got to say about Jeffrey Epstein?
Relationship with him was.
Yeah, I met Jeffrey in 2011. So over a period of 3. Yeah, I met Jeffrey in 2011.
Okay.
So over a period of 3 years, I had a number of dinners with him. The focus was always, he knew a lot of very rich people, and he was saying he could get them to give money to global health. You know, in retrospect, that was a dead end, and I've said many times, but I'll say again, I was foolish to spend time with him. I was one of many people who regret ever knowing him.
You've no doubt seen the allegations, including some of them from the last 24 to 48 hours. Are they true?
No, apparently Jeffrey wrote an email to himself. That email was never sent. The email is, false. So I don't know what his thinking was there. You know, was he trying to attack me in some way? But, it just reminds me, every minute I spent with him, I regret and I, apologize that I did that.
The problem is some of the things that he has sent and some of the information about other people that has come up in those files has been true. Why would he do this and say this about you, do you think?
It's factually true that I was only at dinners. I never went to the island. I never met any women. And so, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that.
The more everything unfolds and the more and more people who come out and break their silence and make a statement, the same people who are listed in the Epstein files. My water. I need my water. You start to realize Epstein's network. Epstein probably knew, if not all, but majority of the people. You have the middle class and you have you have upper class, you have the elites, you have luxury, you have all that. Epstein probably knew, if not 90% of the people who run everything. If not 90, at least 80, or I would even go down to 70%. He knew at least a lot of them. That is what I'm coming to the conclusion of, right? And I'm not saying Epstein's Rain Man, because that would be disrespectful to Rain Man in that movie. However, people like that, people who move like Rain Man, like it almost seemed like Epstein was the numbers guy who just knew a lot of people. So people like Bill Gates, people like Elon Musk, people like Jay-Z, people like who else is on the files? I can't think off the top of my head. All these people, right? And those are the only three people that came to the top of my head. I'm pretty sure there's more. There's no like significant these are these types of people. Like what I'm really trying to say is like it almost feels like, I'm not gonna say they used him, but I'm not gonna say they used Epstein. However, they found incredible value in Epstein. Obviously, motherfucker knew numbers and he knew a lot. He knew majority of the rich people, if not in the U.S., in the entire world. So for Bill Gates to be in that files is not surprising, bro. But let's see what else he has to say.
That kind of behavior.
Some of the information about other people that has come up in those files has been true. Why would he do this and say this about you, do you think?
So they're saying so he's basically asking, why did Epstein lie? Is this true? Obviously he's going to say no, it's not true, gang.
It's factually true that I was only at dinners. I never went to the island. I never met any women. And so, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
Is it frustrating to you, given what you've said, that this is now happening?
Not really. I mean, people should, hold people who are successful to a very high bar. And so, it's as these documents come out, they're going to be closely scrutinized.
Okay. Some of your work here in Australia has involved institutions like Doherty. Part of our contribution, be it to some of the viruses that have been ended, mRNA vaccines, has been in research. What can Australia do that other countries can't? How can Australia help other countries through research?
Well, Australia,
Part of our contribution.
I got
these
distracted.
documents come out very high bar.
That this is now happening.
Not really. I mean, people should, that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
Is it frustrating to you, given what you've said, that this is now happening?
Not really. I mean, people should, hold people who are successful to a very high bar. And so, it's as these documents come out, they're going to be closely scrutinized.
Okay. Some of your work here in Australia has.
This man said a whole bunch of nothing, bro. He basically said, I didn't do any of this. He's basically saying, yes, I did go see Epstein. Yes, I did have dinner with Epstein. No, I didn't fuck those kids. No, I didn't do no weird shit with underage girls. No, I'm not this devil that people are painting Epstein out to be. That's basically what Bill Gates is saying. Bill Gates is saying, I didn't do any of this. Anything that y'all see is going on, not me. No, sir. I only ate food with the motherfucker. I only ate food with him. And I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna set a precedent. Not a president, but a precedent. I don't even think I'm using a precedent. A precedent. How do you fucking pronounce this word, bro? I'm using the word wrong. This is let's go back. What Bill Gates is doing is going to set a new standard, right? And what I mean by that is it is going to set a new standard for a lot of the people who's in the Epstein files. They're just gonna deny it. They're just gonna be like, nah, I had business with the man. Nah, I had to do this, and that with the guy. It wasn't that deep. I wasn't on no weird shit. I wasn't on no adrenochrome shit. You feel me? I wasn't on none of that weird shit Epstein got going on. I don't know nothing about that. I only know I had to get my business up. That's what they're gonna say. Like, no one's gonna outright and come out and just say, like, yo, nah, I did all that. Me and Epstein, we were doing 2-mans with, me and Epstein were doing 3-mans with Harvey Weinstein and Donald Trump. Like, you really think people are gonna come out and say that? Hell no, bro.
Involved institutions like Doherty. Part of our contribution.
Hold on, Chad, I gotta use the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Some of the viruses that have been ended, mRNA vaccines, has been in research. What can Australia do that other countries can't? And how can Australia help other countries through research?
Well, Australia has some fantastic work, including here at Doherty, the Murdoch Children's Research Institute. Literally the main cause of diarrhea was discovered there. Almost every disease that we work on, TB, HIV, malaria, HPV, anemia, I've seen scientists that are doing great work here. We find the best scientists in the world. Here in Australia, we fund about 60 million a year in both health and agriculture. I'd love to see the government and other philanthropists fund these amazing people even more.
You don't have offices as such, I think, in our region, but is that the way that Australia can contribute through our research to a country that is wealthy on global standards, but certainly not a particularly wealthy country? Is this our best way, by sending our best people to solve these big problems of the world?
Yeah, I think Australia will be a generous giver and will particularly help, say, malaria eradication in this region. Myanmar, Papua New Guinea. Unfortunately, there's still quite a bit of malaria here. And so helping to invent the tools for that, helping to fund those campaigns. So there's really three things: the government research budget, the government aid budget, and then the local givers of all scale.
All right, chat. I'm back.
TB, HIV, malaria, HPV, anemia. I've seen scientists that are doing great work here. So we find the best scientists in the world here in Australia. We fund about 60 million a year in both health and agriculture. I'd love to see the government and other philanthropists fund these amazing people even more.
You don't have offices as such, I think, in our region, but is that the way that Australia can contribute through our research to a country that is wealthy on global standards, but certainly not a particularly wealthy country? Is this our best way, by sending our best people to solve these big problems of the world?
Yeah, I think Australia will be a generous giver and will particularly help, say, malaria eradication in this region. Myanmar, Papua New Guinea. Unfortunately, there's still quite a bit of malaria here. And so helping to invent the tools for that, helping to fund those campaigns. So there's really three things: the government research budget, the government aid budget, and then the local givers of all scale.
Papua New Guinea is our nearest neighbour. Should we be doing more?
Yes, we could all do more to improve health in Papua New Guinea, raising vaccination coverage. There's even some polio cases up there right now that are in the process.
All right. Yeah, no, this shit is pretty fucking crazy, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, y'all know Trump isn't gonna say shit. Did Bill Gates have STDs? Did he get STDs through this? Who knows? Gang, we ain't never gonna know. Word of bro. Let's see if I can find more information on this.
That is a
irrelevant to
fact.
this
Don't try to
investigation.
It's crazy, bro. This is the only thing in the news cycle right now. This is one of the biggest headlines in the news cycle right now. It's Epstein gang.
The
Department of Justice released.
Bill Gates is one of the many powerful figures who show up in the Epstein files, and both he and his ex.
Well, the files also show that Epstein repeatedly took the fifth during a 2016 deposition when asked more than a dozen questions about former President Clinton. Among them, several about whether Mr. Clinton visited Epstein's private island and flew in his private plane. The former president...
They're to get ahead of.
As time goes on, more and more documents from the DOJ. Good day to you all.
What's crazier is, this is. All this shit is crazy, bro. See what Joe
in
Rogan
everything
has to
from
say.
Israeli to Saudi to British to French high-level government officials. Jeffrey Epstein was investigated by the SEC in the 1980s.
Mike
he
Benz.
was one of the.
I feel like I've heard of Mike Benz. Who the fuck is Mike Benz? Mike Benz is executive director and the foundation, director of Foundation of Freedom, a free speech watchdog organization. State Department official during Trump's administration, Ben served as Deputy Assistant Secretary of International Communication and Information Technology at the U.S. State Department. Okay, this man has some rank. Let's see what Mike Benz has to say.
Two
about all
people who ran the biggest Ponzi scheme in history at the time in the United States, the Towers financial collapse. Epstein's business partner goes to jail for like 30 years or 20 years or whatever. But Epstein skates completely free. Epstein gets involved in this huge fraud in the U.S. Virgin Islands with this, like billion-dollar fraud case in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Never prosecuted for any of it. Why is that? Well, one is, he may have, we know in the U.S. Virgin Islands case, he was sponsoring the campaigns, basically, of the politicians there. The prosecutors answer to the politicians. Could be that. But I would be shocked if they're in 40 years of this Where's Waldo, Forrest Gump, he's always in the room, in 40 years of American foreign policy and intelligence activity, money sourcing for that, for all the crimes that Epstein committed, the concern was the same one they had with Rolando Masfer. Don't bring the case, and if you do, bring it in a highly limited way. And that's exactly what happened in 2006, the first time he was indicted. Everybody was up in arms that it was a sweetheart plea deal. It gave protection to all co-conspirators, known and unknown. And it was swooped in quickly before, there was a trial in full, so that lines of evidence couldn't be opened about the network.
It's just crazy that statutory rape is what took it all down, right? Because it's underage hand jobs, right? That's what took it all down.
Yeah, I mean, it
Yo,
seems to be what took
this
Jeffrey
really
Epstein
crazy.
down.
Kind of crazy.
Even that has a really interesting geopolitical history. There was a similar scandal in the early 2000s with a private military contractor called DynCorp, which again runs through this Adnan Khashoggi kind of Middle Eastern network. DynCorp got in trouble for trafficking, facilitating the traffic. It was a major U.S. military and CIA contractor for logistics and institutional support and military assistance on the ground for the U.S. military all over the world. They got in trouble basically trafficking underage kids to Middle Eastern sheikhs. And I believe in the early 2000s, and I believe the reason that was alleged by Congress that they did that was to juice the deals with them. That basically, these people who were critical. If you're operating on the ground in Kuwait or, pick your Middle Eastern, country, in order to serve your purpose for the U.S. government to be this outside, plausibly deniable, but extensively infrastructured professional support outfit on the ground, you need the support of the local government. You need the support of the local high-level officials. They need to be happy. And there's several currencies for that. There's financial payoffs, and there's other things they might like parties and young women, especially in places where being with the very young female is not illegal. And so what DynCorp, I believe, got busted doing, and you can look up the DynCorp scandal here, was doing this, and I believe their argument was, well, you wanted us to do this thing on the ground. You wanted us to help the U.S. military and kind of covert support nodes that were happening here. We had to do it somehow. This is part of what helped us do that. I would not be surprised if the Epstein trafficking apparatus started with similar motivations. Not that it's not necessarily for blackmail, but because it makes clients or customers or VIP people happy. It makes them owe you something. It makes them want to get involved in a deal you do, even if the deal is not one they would ordinarily do, because they just want to stay close to you because you're their supplier of the thing, of their vice, of the thing that they, want but can't get. If you're a 70-year-old billionaire, you can't walk into a bar and leave aside the underage thing. You can't walk into a bar, and meet an 18-year-old who's, I presume, these things are facilitated at private parties, and it needs to, for a lot of these guys, it has to be discreet. They've got wives, they've got reputations, and there's an aspect of this that plays out at every institution. I worked at a New York law firm, and there's ways that you can make partner. At least this was kind of the vibe that I felt like. Some people make partner because they're really good technically at what they do. They're just amazing. They're just technical whizzes on the minutia of how to structure a merger or acquisition. They're just really great at structuring an offshore banking transaction, or they just know absolutely everything about tax law. There's some people who move up because of nepotism. They're the brother and they're the son-in-law of a major partner. There's some people who make partner because they brought in one client who's just a really big rainmaker. And there's some people who move up because they
Well, the other person, another very prominent person, I want to cross it.
Every Justice Department released so many records from the
process of being whatever.
You know who the only person hasn't said anything? I feel like
takes place, and those transcripts are made available, and that Mr. Clinton comes before the committee with counsel, so that we then are in a position to move forward. We're taking a big jump here without doing some of the things that we normally do. Now, I'm glad that Ms. Tlaib brought up the matter of victims. She's not here right now, but all of us sat in that room with those victims. It was gut-wrenching, and all of us made a commitment that we would prove that this institution could and would do the right thing. So we're challenged here, Mr. Chairman, and I hope that you and the ranking member can give us a way to proceed here, that both of the concerns on both sides are addressed.
And good evening from our nation's capital, where today we sat down exclusively with President Trump at this extremely pivotal moment in his second term. The president making a number of headlines, discussing everything from the midterm elections to the economy to his administration's handling of the immigration crackdown. Telling me what he learned from Minneapolis and about where ICE officers could head next. And with the affordability crisis impacting so many Americans right now, you'll hear what...
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. ICE right now is wilding right now. I ain't gonna lie, man.
About when to expect economic relief. I also asked him point blank about this moment with Fed Chair Jerome Powell and if his Justice Department would drop the investigation into Powell. And as the Republican Party faces growing pressure ahead of the midterms, what he said about the possibility of 2028 and the what he said about bulletproof.
Yes, it did. But it didn't come from me because I just wanted to do it. We are waiting for them to release prisoners, give us the murderers that they're holding, and all of the bad people, drug dealers, all of the bad people. We allowed in our country, I'd say 25 million people with an open border policy for 4 years under Biden and that group, the auto pen group, I call them. We allowed to come into our country people the likes of which no country would accept, and we're getting them out. But we've gotten a lot of them out. So crime now in Minnesota, crime now in Minneapolis is down. Crime in all cities is down. And you know why it's down? It's down because of us. It's down in Chicago by 25%, despite the fact that we are always dealing with these people, and they happen to be Democrats.
Right. Speaking of
that don't know anything about crime prevention.
Mr. President, speaking of Minneapolis, what did you learn?
I learned that maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. These are criminals. We're dealing with really hard criminals.
See, and this is where the miscommunication comes in. You have people, you have narratives saying, fuck ICE, fuck this, Fuck them. Fuck that. Yeah, at the end of the day, maybe it is fuck ICE, you know? But ultimately, what are we trying to do? Right? What are we trying to do as a community, as Americans, to ensure the safety of the people around me? Ensure the safety of my kids. Ensure the safety of their kids. You know? And yeah, he is right. There are a lot of people in America right now. And shit, bro. My parents, they were at one point immigrants. So this is coming from the child of of this is coming from a child whose parents were once immigrants. I believe the tactic he is using, like he said, it is a bit rough. However, I do think there are better ways to try to get the job done, you know? Cause now ICE has built a reputation of like, bro, you have people on the bro, you have artists. You have a nationwide narrative saying fuck ICE. That, bro, do you know what that feels like? That feels like back in 2020 when people were saying fuck the cops with the BLM movement. That's what this kind of feels like.
But look, I've called the people. I've called the governor. I've called the mayor. Spoke to them. Had great conversations with them. And then I see them ranting and raving out there, literally as though a call wasn't made. We've done a great job everywhere. The only place there's been a little inflammation has been really, it's not Minnesota because we've done well with
Los
crime.
Angeles, too. There's
It's
been others. Yeah.
Well, I saved Los Angeles. The top law enforcement officer, and right at the beginning of my time when they were having riots, before me and it carried into me. If I didn't go in there with the National Guard, with troops, you wouldn't have the Olympics, which I got. I got the Olympics. You wouldn't have the Olympics in Los Angeles. And he said, without the president sending in the troops, we would have lost Los Angeles. Yeah. And you know what? I saved Los Angeles. And we will do it again if we have to. And by the way, we're going to have a very safe Olympics, and we're going to have a very safe World Cup.
Speaking of Minneapolis, after the shooting of Renee Good, you said ICE made some mistakes. What were the mistakes?
Well, look, I'm not happy with the two incidents. It's not, it's both of them, not one or the other. He was not an angel, and she was not an angel. You look at some tapes from back, but still, I'm not happy with what happened there. Nobody could be happy, and ICE wasn't happy either. But I'm going to always be with our great people of law enforcement. ICE, police, we have to back them. If we don't back them, we don't have a country. If we don't back them, you're going to end up, look, Washington, D.C. was a very unsafe place to be. You couldn't walk to the White House. You couldn't walk to a restaurant. Restaurants were closing. I inherited not only a mess with the country, I inherited a horrible, very dangerous capital. Do you know Washington, D.C. is now an extremely safe place? You see what happened. You're here a lot.
When you mentioned Renee
Good.
Good,
Let me ask you, Tom.
yeah.
You're here a lot.
Yeah.
Would you have walked down the street a year and a half ago with your family? No. But today you can, and nothing's going to happen.
You mentioned Renee Good and Alex Peretti not being angels.
Would you, friends of mine that live there, it's got crime problems. Would you let him do the job and not come in? Let's see how it works. I said, look, I can do it much quicker, much faster. Don't forget, we remove criminals.
Yeah, Trump is gonna give you all the answers, but the answer to the question you asked.
And unemotional.
That's who Trump is. Big want to see what Ack got to say about all this.
what's happening here? What's happening here? Streams you have to be for this. We damn near got everybody on stream, and that's gonna get on stream. Bigger than you guys because now I gotta go tears before I busted him. Pause. Oh, I ain't gonna lie. Blue.
I feel like that's enough. I think that's everything with Epstein. Oh, was Pusha T? Was Pusha T on the Epstein list? Was Pusha T on the Epstein case? Pusha T was mentioned in a batch of Jeffrey Epstein documents released by... Damn. Yo, I had no idea. I had no idea. What the fuck was Pusha T doing in the Epstein? What the fuck was Pusha T doing with that Jeffrey Epstein gang? An anonymous caller claimed she was drugged and sexually abused, naming Pusha T as one of her handlers. These mentions were unverified tips from the public legal experts DOJ. Was Jay-Z. The Epstein files. $3 million documents, bro. Yeah, we already covered this though. So Pusha T, Harvey Weinstein, we all know the demon, and then Jay-Z. I ain't gonna lie, let's see how this shit. Honestly, bro, we just gotta see how this shit unfolds.